Okay, hello. Thank you to everyone who's joined us to watch this today. This is a Q&A following the second in-competition screening at the Fight Back Awards as part of the Ramsgate Film and TV Festival. So I'm Andrew Young, I'm the head programmer at the Fight Back Awards, and we're joined today by some fabulous filmmakers from the screening that's just happened. So we have Malcolm Modele from When It Gets Dark, we have Andy Winstead from The Treaty of COVID-19, and we have Siletzky and Kendall Barachy from Sergeants Jacob and Olivia Barnes. So the first thing, instead of me talking much, we're just going to go to each of you, so you can tell us about yourselves, your film, and your connection to the military, your veteran experience. So we'll start with you, Malcolm. Tell us a bit who you are, what you do, and obviously your military background as well.
Cool. So hi everyone, my name is Malcolm Modele. I'm a director, producer, and entrepreneur based in London. I'm also an actor. That's how I actually started in this industry. I moved on to directing and producing some 5 years ago or so. And I realized I was actually quite good at organization. Obviously, there's a lot of other people here can say as well from the military. It's a good trait to have from the military is organization. So the film, When It Gets Dark, I was the director and producer. I also had a little bit of a cameo role in it. My background and my history prior to me being in the filming industry is I served 8 years in the armed forces in the British Army, served 2 tours of Afghanistan, but always wanted to be in the arts industry. I was always a bit of a crazy character, always loved drama as a kid. So I decided I did my bit with the military, served my country, and then I wanted to make films. So that's what I did. I actually lived in America for 2 years, and that's where all my journey and my career started as a filmmaker. So I was working on small film sets behind the cameras, actually helping out as a runner. That's how my journey started with all this. But yeah, that's a bit about me.
Great, thanks for that. Andy?
Hey everybody, my name's Andy Winstead. I flew F-16s. I was an F-16 pilot for 20 years and ended up with 102 combat missions over Iraq and Afghanistan. That was the big thing I wanted to do in my life as a kid. That was my number one goal. And my second goal was to be an actor. So when I retired, I started doing the acting thing and got going with that part of my career. And I quickly learned the fastest way to get a job acting is write, produce, and direct your own material. So then I started writing and making things. And so the latest short film I've made is called The Treaty of COVID-19. And it's a unique storyline with the Native American Indians, which is my ancestry, and the COVID virus and the vaccine. So that's a little teaser for you to go find it and watch it. And that's my story.
Great. And then Jessica, Kendall, take it in turns. Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. My name is Jessica Siletzky. I served in the Marine Corps for 4 years in the band. So I'm a musician and went into the military because I really wanted to serve my country in a way that I thought I could serve it best, which was with my flute. I met my husband in the Marine Corps. He's a trumpet player. We had a child together, and I ended up getting out to raise him after my first 4 years. So I came into the film industry about 6 years ago when I decided to use my GI Bill to study film and photography. And while I was at school, I met Kendall and decided to do this film. It's very brief, but yeah, that's my story.
Great.
I'm Kendall Barachy. I met Jessica at school. I am not from any military background at all, but when Jessica came to my class and was like, hey, I really need a producer, and I heard her story and I was like, that's awesome, I'm all yours. And we just fell in love, and here we are. We made a great project and we're really great friends. So I'm really happy that I could help share her story.
Great, that's fantastic. Thank you all for that. So I'll ask some more general questions in a minute, but we'll start kind of with each person's film really. Andy, we'll go to you first. You mentioned briefly there that your film is pandemic related, and is to do with a sort of theoretical, fictionalized scenario in response to the pandemic. Do you want to tell us a bit more about why? Because a lot of people in their filmmakers have now chosen to sort of just ignore COVID-19 and not, kind of just carry on as if it hasn't happened. Why did you decide to make something in response to it? Why did you feel that moment needed something from you?
That's a great question. So in the middle of the pandemic, when everything was shut down and locked down here in the United States, that's when I came up with the plot line for this movie. There's a lot going on in the film industry when the Black Lives Matter movement started for getting more diversity in film and broadcast television. My background is Native American Indian, so as I saw all of that happening where there was a need for more diversity and inclusion in the middle of the pandemic, I thought, well, what can I do? I can mix them together. So I came up with a storyline of the great-great-grandson of Sitting Bull, which was an Indian warrior and chief 500 years ago. His great-great-grandson is a modern day, in today's world, Indian chief, and he unites all the Indian tribes together as one tribe, and they come up with a vaccine. The state's government came up with a vaccine. Unfortunately, the US government's vaccine mutated and started killing everybody, but the Indian one didn't. So now you have a storyline where the Indians are going to take back over all of the lands that were taken from them 500 years ago. And the ending scene is a pretty interesting scene where the Indian chief is having a conversation with the President of the United States, who's stuck in a bunker. 8 members of Congress that we have left alive. The virus has wiped everybody else out. And the conversation is the president asking the Indian for help, which is what happened 500 years ago here in this country when the Europeans arrived and said, hey, to the Indians, help us survive. So it's a kind of an interesting twist on the original storyline of how the United States was born. And that's how I came up with it.
Yeah, it's great. Like you said, there's this you use the pandemic to create this situation where there's a kind of reversal of fortunes and a sort of power imbalance that we haven't seen before, and it's a sort of how we approach that? How would you, as a Native American, approach that? We'll move on to Kendall and Jessica, to your film, which is a relationship drama essentially between these two people, but these two people happen to be armed forces themselves. So it's not really, there's no combat in it, it's not about that. But I just want to maybe talk a little bit more about this idea, where this idea came from, to essentially tell a story that could take place with non-military characters, but you chose to show that side of life for people in the forces.
Right. So when I used to go work out on base, there was a poster hanging, and it was a military guy, and he was hanging his head down, and the poster said 100 on his PFT, awards for combat missions, promoting on schedule, can't talk to his wife. And then there was like a number for counseling service. And I just never got that out of my head. And so much of what I ended up dealing with in my unit was a lot of my brothers coming up to me and talking to me about their marriage problems. And there's something about the military where we're all just kind of really honest about stuff that's going on. We say things really rawly, and so I heard a lot of horrible stories, and my own marriage included, stuff that was really wrong, and a lot of it usually surrounds like intimacy, just not really knowing how to be emotionally intimate, which leads to physical intimacy issues. And I really wanted to write a script where there's an incident that causes it all to come out, all the stuff they didn't know how to talk about, just like in an explosion. And that was where the story came from. So it was just this amalgam of all the stories that I had heard and experienced myself. And the goal being that if we put it out in the open, it loses its power and maybe makes people feel a little bit less alone.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic. And Kendall, how about you? When did you sort of come on board on this, and what made you want to get involved in telling this sort of veteran story of another side of veteran life?
Yeah, so I was actually a sophomore in college, and she came into my class and she pitched her story, and I was like, "Hey, I think my friend actually told me about you because we had a mutual friend." And then she told me her story, and just like the look in her eyes and how passionate she was about it, so connected to the story. She was kind of new here. We had similar friends, but she didn't know how to jump in because, you know, she's a little bit older than my age group and stuff. So of course I was like, I want to help you make the story, and it flowed really well together, and nothing was hard. She knew how to create this story the best she could in her own eyes, as well as helping other people see it through that. So I just really wanted to help.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then Malcolm, your film is sort of similar in the sense that it's the story of a military man, but mostly, bar kind of a bit at the end, mostly someone who's at home, and he's dealing with all this stuff that doesn't really have anything to do with his military background, but also it very much does, because that's part of who he is and how he deals with things. Do you want to tell us a bit more why you decided to make a film about a soldier, about someone military, but not in that environment, you know?
Basically, so when it gets dark was a challenge for us, and it was a challenge in the sense that myself and one of my best friends, David Duna, who was actually the writer and one of the lead actors in the film, we'd both been on operational tour. We both have partners away, and there's a lot missing to the general public of what actually happens when a soldier is at home, all the difficulties that they have at home, and the difficulties of, we all get taught to separate our business life and our personal life, so our work life and our personal life, and keep them separate. But this film was basically about, you know, showing the difficulties that soldiers can have outside of their work environment, and difficulties they have on operational tours, and even being in unit or barracks, and the stuff they have to go to, and then finding that divide and that fork in the road of how do you stop what's going on at home and the difficulties you're having at home, family, friends, whatever, and how do you keep it separate? You know, how do you still do what your country needs to the best of your ability as a soldier, as a weapon, I guess, or however you want to word it, but then still be that family man, still be that support, that rock at home, and still be there for the people that you need and the people that you love. And it was basically just to show that you know, we are stronger than we think. We are not made of glass. You know, we've got people around us that can support us, and we have to just get on with it. And the difficulties in making the film was, the film actually originally started out David, and David's brother was the DP. So it was, and the younger girl was David's sister. We were like, you know, we can tell more of a story here. You know, we can build more of a background about these characters. We can show a resemblance to what people are actually going through and having to deal with in real life. So we just started just writing more and adapt more, and it'd be even down to the point where we'd be on set and we'd be like, we could just take this scene this way and it would totally work. And then we quickly write something, 7-minute film or whatever it was. And it just turned out amazing. And the people that we've shown have said that it can be disconnected from the military, because it's not just the military and it's not just that environment that people go through. There are people who deal with the same heartache and pain and the divide from business and home life in normal jobs, you know, not just the military. It was about creating that, you know, and it was a difficult task for other people involved with the film set, but you know, we drew on those emotions as well, as actors, as performers, as directors, as filmmakers, almost, I guess you could say, almost method acting to help build that film and build the story and build the emotion, you know, the happiness, the sad, the highs, the lows in the film, you know, and hopefully, you know, people can connect with that type of film as well. And that was the aim.
Yeah, it's great. It's definitely absolutely something people can connect with. It's a very emotional, moving film. Um, a question for all of you now, I guess. You touched on it there, Malcolm, but this festival is about showcasing the work of veterans in film, but it's also about trying to encourage other veterans to get involved in film and to use the arts. And I just want, I guess, at a more practical level, just wanting to, if any of you have any advice or tips or just information about how you actually got your film made, you know, how you left the military and now here you are with this film playing in this festival, you know, and what that journey was like, how you came about getting funding for this film, you know, was it literally a zero budget thing? Just a bit more about the kind of practical details behind it. You sort of touched on it there, so we'll start back with you, Malcolm, if you like.
So to me, the advice, I'm giving the advice because I've been through it and I've done it, is just get it done. Just don't, if you remain sitting around waiting and expecting things to come to you, you know, I got taught in the military, if you want something, you learn how to do it, or you just take it, or you get up and you do it, and it's not going to come to you just sat around. You might get lucky in it, or, you know, come across your desk, but everybody is capable of creating. We're all the same. We all have ears, eyes, brains, mouths. You know, we all have access to the internet to learn, to teach ourselves things, and it's all easily accessible at our fingertips. Everything that I have learned through acting, direct, I realized that I started becoming really, really interested in it, or either, you know, I love this, it's a passion of mine, I'm really enjoying it. You know, I then went on and I did courses and classes and read books. But to me, the best thing I could do is just jump in the deep end. Don't think of not creating something or getting it wrong as a failure. Think of it as a learning curve. You still established something, you still created something, you still made connections and learned from it. So your next production or your next dark, there was no budget. All my camera equipment that I used here, and, you know, the kit's better now as I've moved on over the past 6 months because I've invested more in it. But the cameras I used weren't top of the range. You know, our audio was captured on a stick that we found out in a field, and we put a lapel mic on the end of it and had it as a boom pole, and that was our audio, you know, for those scenes. So I guess a quote is improvise, adapt, and overcome. You know, you can always do that. You just have to take your time, learn, think, and then execute. And if it doesn't work out, it's not a loss because you've learned from it, learn from mistakes, and then make it better next time. And share, you know, listen to someone else. You might be the director on set, but other people have valid opinions. You don't need to execute them, but listen to people, because everybody has a mind. Everybody is capable of creating and inventing and helping. So allow people to get involved. We're all in it to create. So allow.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. And Kendall and Jessica, how about you and getting this film from, you know, script to screen?
Yeah, so I feel like as the director, it's really important that you make sure that the people that are on the set with you know more than you do. Just surround yourself with people that are experts in their field, or at least, you know, way smarter at it than you are. Because I know for myself, I was a film director in taking my film this far, and I needed a lot of people around me that had been on set a lot. And I've come to realize that often the director on the set is the person on the set with the least experience on set, because the camera crews, they're on sets all the time. And so my DP just really knew what he was doing, and my producer really knew what she was doing. And I could always ask questions about the best way to recruit people, the best way to operate on set. So we were optimizing our time. Yeah, so surrounding yourself with people who know more than you. That's my advice.
Yeah, I can say something similar. I mean, it was my first film that I guess I could say was part of mine. Me and Jessica, I mean, it's her film, but we shared creating it together. So I guess it was my first film that I made. And yeah, I had set experience, but it was a whole different experience when you're the boss. So it was really just being confident and collaborating and just making sure the team was safe. And Jessica was great. And just that our communication was always on point. I think that was the main thing. But other than that, I think it's just about your team and just making sure everyone's okay.
That's great. That's great advice as well. And Andy, how about you and your move from military to filmmaking?
So everything that everybody just said, as I was thinking about my journey, I was going, yep, that's right. Everything they said was correct. What I can add in is if you want to do it, don't give up. I've learned that you're going to hear no so many times. So you got to have a form of art. So if you go to an art museum, you may look at a piece of art and you may say, that is ugly. I don't like that. Who would ever buy that? And then you learn that it just sold for $30 million. So just because someone tells you one thing doesn't mean that they are right. You know, there are different views. So don't give up. That's the main thing. If you want to do it, do it. Don't give up. If you don't have any experience in it, my suggestion would be volunteer. You can go online and there's probably a film school near you, and there are probably students who are making something, and you can just say, hey, can I go lend a hand and learn a little bit in the process and meet some people? Because I think Jessica said, surround yourself with people that know what they're doing, and that is what I did, because I don't know anything about cameras or lenses, but there are experts who do. So surround yourself with those people. And everybody said before me was so spot on. That's the only little bit that I could add is just don't give up. If it's something you want to do, there's an internet we all have access to. If you haven't gone to school for film, you can go online and you can learn so much, and you can meet people, and you can do it.
Yeah, that's great. I think there's a clear message there from all of us. So if anybody is watching, particularly if you are a veteran and you want to get involved in the film industry, then go for it. And I guess that kind of leads into another question for all of you, really, which is how important for you, particularly for those of you who are veterans, and how important do you think filmmaking has been for you, and that experience of filming and of creating something? How important do you think that is for veterans? You know, obviously each person is individual, but the opportunity for things like that, and for you personally in your kind of post-military life, how important has that been for you in the process of filmmaking? And we'll go back to Malcolm again to start with there, I think.
So to me, I've had this question in the past, and to me, being in front of a camera, because I started off in this industry as an actor. I'm still an actor now, you know, moved behind the camera, but to start off in this industry as an actor in front, I basically unintentionally used acting as I guess my therapy. The first were playing soldiers who had PTSD, who'd been on operational tour, and I was at peace with the things that I had done and seen while I was over there. But it was still a big part of me, and I'm not one to actively speak out and, you know, talk to people. I think of myself as a strong character, and you're a strong character if you talk to people. You're a strong character if you don't. That's who you are. And I, as I guess my therapy, because I drew as a method actor. I drew within those roles. I drew on things that I had been through, seen and done, PTSD that I had, and I utilized that, and I used that to get my anger and frustration that I'd locked up for years out. Now, to me, that's not wrong. That's not something that you should or shouldn't do. You should cope who you are as a human being, and you should learn what works for you. And that roles that I achieved and I got, and doing those were very difficult, especially the one theatre performance where I did like 4 shows a week for 2 weeks, and we toured, and it was really, really intense. 2 shows a night, 4 nights, yeah. It was difficult doing it, but I felt so good after it, because I feel like I had got everything out, but the viewers just saw it as acting, and that's all they ever knew it as. I saw it as acting, but I also saw it as getting a weight off my shoulders, because that's, and then falling into these roles played a huge part in, I guess, me healing myself, because I got all this off my chest and off my shoulders. And although after, you know, I left the military and I became at peace with, you know, my history, there was still a part of me that I felt wasn't whole again, because I feel like I couldn't talk to someone, but I feel like I couldn't get it off. And this allowed me to do that. So to me, this was a very, very crucial part in my life. And this is and I believe that this happened for a reason. It allowed me to get over the past, become stronger, and now it shows. Now I love this, and I wouldn't change any of this for the world.
That's fantastic. And Andy, do you have anything to add to that, really?
Yeah. If you're a veteran, you have some unique skills that the majority of the world doesn't have. For me, I'm fortunate. I knew exactly what I wanted to do when I was a young teen. So the journey for me was a little easier, as I already knew what I wanted to do. If you're a military person and you think you might want to get involved in film, I think it's a great perspective, because movies are storytelling. So any vet that's out there has seen things that other people haven't seen. So you can tell a story from a unique vantage point that other people haven't seen, and they're going to want to hear it because it's something new and unique. Flying an F-16, you wear a mask. I could tell a story about what it's like to wear an oxygen mask for 14 hours as I crossed the Atlantic Ocean going from the States to some country in the Middle East. And if you're in the military, whatever field you worked in, I'm sure you can tell a unique story about your field, or maybe where you went. How many people have set foot in Afghanistan? Not a lot, other than Afghan people. Escape to the culture, to the food, and you really have an advantage to tell a story, which is really what movies are all about. It's telling a story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Jessica, Kendall, you know, you mentioned before, Jessica, the kind of hoping to shine a light on this thing that people don't really think about very much, about veterans' relationships. So how important do you think film and making this film was for you personally?
Yeah, so yeah, you're talking about story content. Yeah, I had a really unique experience in the military, because as a military musician, we're sort of a strange breed. A lot of us we have master's degrees before we go in, which is not normal for enlisted. So we're kind of this strange bunch, but at the same time, we're in the dirt with the grunts doing the same training, and we rifle qual every year. Ponies and do parades, and it's just a different job, which I thought gave me a really interesting set of stories. I met a lot of veterans from World War II era, from Korean War, and I got to be part of seeing the brotherhood over the generations and what that means to people. So my job was very much about the camaraderie. Was losing that that brotherhood. And when I found film sets, and I wasn't looking for it, I just sort of stumbled upon it. I went in as a documentary filmmaker, which is kind of you on an island with all the equipment. And when you get on a set, a film set, I discovered I felt so comfortable, because it is one of the only things that is so similarly structured to a military unit. Everybody has their jobs. They have the people they answer to, and those people answer to the person at the top. And the way everything operates, it feels very much like a space where I'm at home and I understand how to operate it. And I wish that more veterans and more people getting out knew what a great space a film set is for the way that we've been trained, for how we understand a working situation to be. It's hard work, it's a lot of hours, and it's really structured. And I talked to multiple veterans that I had on my set, and we all agreed that it's just one of those spaces where we felt kind of normal. So yeah, getting on set is really great for reintegration. And I would love for more veterans to know that.
Yeah, and I think to go off everyone, like, I think art is just a form of therapy, and to release something that you may not be able to talk about as easily. So seeing Jessica and our other veterans on set just feels so safe and creative. I just felt proud that I could help make that happen. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And we'll carry on with you, Jessica and Kendall, actually. I want to talk a little bit specifically in your film about this relationship and these two actors. You've got two great actors in there. And a relationship drama, to get a relationship to feel real on screen, you often need quite a long time. You know, in a TV show, it takes a while to build that up. And just making a short film, I just wonder kind of how you prepared for this with your actors to get that relationship feeling real, really, for you as a director. Jessica and Kendall, maybe you could talk about kind of where you found them, where you found these actors in the first place.
Yeah, so both of my actors, Jacob and Olivia, neither of them were military. So we had to spend quite a few hours just talking about military life. And we did extensive backstory work in order to develop a marital connection between the two of them that felt more authentic. You know, for them to be arguing about such deep, intimate things, there needed to be an understanding of how did it get to this point. And I think it's really easy. It was really easy for Brady, the guy who played Jacob, to feel like he was a villain. And I really wanted him to sort of experience the path and how you get to that point without judgment. And that's what I wanted both of them to experience, is like, how do you get to a place where you're cheating? How do you get to a place where you're estranged from your wife, like, without judging it, and just like understanding that these two people really did love each other, and they do love each other. They just didn't know how to deal with their issues in a healthy way. So it took a lot of hours of them just asking a lot of questions. And when we were on set, there was sort of this move on the actor's part, on Brady's part, where he started to play Jacob in this really villainous. This is not a sinister character. This is just a dude who didn't know how to handle his issues and wasn't doing it right and got really lost in it. So we had to do multiple takes where we explored it in rehearsal, and then we had to re-explore it when we actually got on set. But yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say I didn't really have much work or part of, like, I'm like, when they throw the bottle and the glass shatters everywhere, production office was in the basement, and the kitchen where they shot it was like right above it. And they kept doing takes, and I'm like, you know, I'm kind of scared to go up there. Like, it feels like my parents are fighting or something. Like, it was very intense, and it just felt like a real relationship that was going wrong. And it was very intense, and I'm just proud of my team that they could create that.
Yeah, and I move on to you, Malcolm. Thinking about acting, and you say you're an actor yourself, and the lead role in When It Gets Dark is played by David Duna, who's also the co-writer. I was just wondering, kind of out of curiosity, why, as an actor, you didn't want to play that role yourself? Why? I mean, you are in the film, but you're not in that central role, and it was a topic you seemed, you know, quite personally invested in. I'm just curious as to why you took the smaller role that you did, and the writer David ended up with that.
So to me, and I've made this mistake in the past, and it touches lightly on what I said in the past, is learn from mistakes. This was a very heartfelt film. There was a lot of emotion. To me, as an actor, you really need to invest in the character. when you're acting and you're portraying a role, you really need to invest in that role to make it believable. You know, acting is reacting, and you know, you can't seem robotic, and having something so difficult is a mammoth task in itself. And I've made this mistake in the past where I've thought, okay, I can direct it and I can write it and produce it, excuse me, and I can be the lead role, and you know, just because budget's tight, or I just really, I guess it's almost, I don't want to say selfish, but it's like, I want to do that, and I want to do that, and I want to do that. And I think there comes a time where you realize where you need to learn from your mistakes, and all these individual jobs that you have on a film set are extremely difficult. And I think a lot of the general public don't understand or realize how difficult each individual job roles are or can be on a film set, even down to the lead actor. The time and the preparation and the investment that a person can do to create that backstory, to create and develop that character is catastrophic. There's no end to how much energy and effort you can put into preparation for anything, whether it be the pre-production, the editing. You know, you can put more into it. So I thought to myself, I want to be a part of this. You know, it's my best friend. It's a really of it. But I want to make sure that I put my everything as a human being. I can take on a lot. Like, I'm multiple screens going on, texting, I'm listening. I'm really good at multitasking. But I really wanted to put everything into the direction and the production. Was making sure that I get the best from those actors, making sure that the visuals can be the best they can be with what we have, which was very, very minimal in a very, very short space of time. And you know, me having that small, you know, hopefully, and I think it did, you know, myself and excuse me, myself and David's role in there, you know, we were really good mates in the film, and you know, we thought that would be a best way to showcase the chemistry between two real friends as two pretend friends. But by giving that role to David, and you know, David having that role to himself, he could really focus on developing that character. And I think by separating and stepping away and just doing what your job is and not trying itself, is having the ability to go, no, you can have that role because I need to do this, and this film is going to be a lot better because of it, and just trust me. You know, so that was the reason why. But I still wanted to be, you know, a part of the film and be in front of it. You know, I could have cast someone in that role, and you know, I'm sure there would have been a load of people, but I think the chemistry that me and David already have in real life shone through as well within the film. So that's why I put myself there for that role. And I didn't do the actual main lead role.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Andy, I slightly different question. I mean, you are in your film, you are the lead, and you did write it. And I'm kind of interested in the writing process for you, and how, like you say, it's this power imbalance is what the film is about, and a kind of reversal of power, or almost compared to what perhaps we're used to seeing on screen, and how the Native American leader in that film has this decision to make. Essentially, it's all about sort of having this power and knowing what to do with it. And I was just wondering kind of whether you sort of changed your mind about, you know, what was going to happen and what that character was going to decide to do in the film, because when I was watching it, I wasn't sure. You're never really sure what's right to do sometimes, and also you're not sure what you think. Oh, is he going to go this way? Is he going to go that way? And I just want to know a bit more about that decision-making process for you.
Technology there. Sorry about that. That's a great question, because when I wrote that film, to give the viewers a little better understanding, the film takes place 2 years in the future. The vaccine, when I wrote it, there was no vaccines out there. I was in the middle of the pandemic. But when I wrote it, I said, okay, we're 2 years in the future. They came out with a vaccine, but they didn't test it correctly, and it mutated the virus, and it made the virus a contagion. It wiped everybody out. In 2 years, we went from about 7 billion people worldwide to less than 200 million people worldwide, except for the Native American Indians. So when I originally thought of the process, what got me going was some issues of diversity and inclusion. Most people don't realize that roles in film for Native Americans, all of the roles, it's less than 1/2 of 1%. 0.4, less than 1/2 of 1%. So I wanted to make something that told a story for Native Americans to get involved in that issue of diversity inclusion in the film world, and to bring in some more Native American actors. So all of that was churning in my head when I was writing this. And the way I had originally written the ending was going to be where the Native Americans get the vaccine. The president asked for help, please give us that vaccine. And the Native American leader says, no, we helped you 500 years ago, and look how that worked for us. That war that started 500 years ago ends today. We're not going to help you. You're done. And as I pitched that to a few of my friends, not anybody in the entertainment or film world, just friends of mine, and we talked about it, everybody kind of said, you know, maybe you should reconsider. Maybe you should end that on a kinder, more loving, more compassionate point of view, where that Native American leader reconsiders and says, you know, maybe he can point out the problems that happened 500 years ago, but in the end, he's compassionate about storytelling. And it's all about, when you watch it and you get to the end, what thoughts are in your head. And it's good to have love and compassion in your head. And so those were different directions that my mind was pulled when I was writing everything. And I ended up going with the compassionate ending. I think that answers it for you, Andrew. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. And it is. It's nice because there's a decision to make there, and placed in that scenario, you don't know what you would do. And I think it's the film makes a very good job of showing that dilemma.
I'll pick one more thing on that. So when people ask that, well, the way I explain it, I often say is, imagine this: if everything had been taken from you, your family had been killed, all of your money, all of your property, everything has been taken from you. And now you have a decision. The person that took it and killed everyone you know and love, you have their life in your going to be unmerciful. And that's really the question in this film for that main character. Are you going to be forgiving, or are you going to be unmerciful?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll come to an end soon, but I just wanted to ask, we've got two films here with When It Gets Dark and Sergeants Jacob and Olivia Barnes, where you've made a film about military characters, and the other Q&A I did yesterday, all the films are about the forces. And Andy, we have a film here for you where your experience as a veteran hasn't really, it may feed into the making of it, but the story itself is a separate story, really. So I guess to you, the question is, why not? Why? And do you have a plan to make films specifically about your military experience in the future? And why didn't you do it on this occasion? And to the others of you, why did you feel you had to? And are you, perhaps not exclusively, but in the future, are they the stories you want to tell? Because yesterday when I spoke to some others, it was very much like, I feel like my voice as a veteran is not heard, so that's what I want to do. That's why I'm making films. So we'll start with you, Andy, I suppose, as to why you've not done that.
I wanted to do that. So for me, out of the box, I needed to get something that was 20 minutes that filled some check marks for myself on what I wanted to get out there in a film. And this storyline for me was in the future are associated with the military, and will have so much more of a military storyline because they're so great. I mean, from everybody who's talked today, there's so many different angles you could move with the military and people with a military background, whether it's something that has to do with fighting, or whether it's something that has to do with compassion, or home, like your personal issues of having to go and fight. There's so many variants that you can come up with, such wonderful storylines. So for me, that's the next process, the next journey, or the next film I'm going to do.
That's great. And Jessica and Kendall, are you is this your goal, to show that military life, or are you going to do something completely different next?
Well, yes, I really love including the military in the stuff I write. When I write without it, I feel like there's a piece of my heart that's missing. Even if it's just part of the backdrop, I like to include it somehow. In a script I wrote recently, there was, I wrote a boot camp scene. And I mean, boot camp is such a wonderful space for comedy and for intensity. And so I think I have such a heart for military men and women and veterans, because it's been such a huge part of my life. And once you become a Marine, it never leaves you. And it's a way that I've been able to stay connected to that part of my heart. It's a way that I've been able to think about how I can help the community by telling certain stories, certain ways. It's cathartic. So yeah, I think I'm not saying that I'm only committed to military stories, but I often find myself incorporating it in my writing and in my idea process, for sure.
With me, since I don't really have a background in military, obviously I'm open to any story, but as Jessica is like one of my partners, I would consider her as, I would be open to making as many veteran military films as she would like.
Fantastic. And Malcolm, we'll finish with you. The same question, really. Is this, do you something you want to keep on doing, and that's your story, or what's your feeling?
To me, I'm a creative. I'm a thinker. So I can't just sit down and write something, because I do write myself. I mean, David and his brother wrote this, and it started off as just an idea on a page. And I think they literally blasted out a script almost overnight. And David's an extremely creative guy, and so is Stephen. So where this story actually stemmed from with them, it wouldn't be beneficial for me to try and explain it, because it came from their mind. But for me, as a creative, I think the film industry and everything we create as filmmakers, doesn't matter, it's happy, sad, military, medical, comedy, it tells a story. And because it's a film and it's on TV, it's not real. And even though it brings an emotion, even if it's a sad emotion, it still brings you some sort of joy, because it moved you. It moved you, whether it be sad or happy, or you became angry for a character. At the end of it, it's not real. And I think music and film does that to us, and it makes us feel emotions, and it makes us feel like we're real, and it makes us feel like we can either relate or we can connect with the characters. So as long as I'm achieving that with whatever I create and whatever I put my mind to, that's what I want to do. So I'd love to stick down the military route as a director and a producer and a filmmaker, just because I know more about it than a lot of other people. So when it comes to continuity, when it comes to making it real, because there's nothing worse. I think probably everyone can agree with me here. When you watch a military film, and that that's not how you cock a weapon, or that's not how you load a weapon, or that's not how you shoot a weapon, or that's not how you, breach a door. You're like, what are you doing, mate? Like, that's wrong, I love to get involved with that stuff, but that's not what I'm limiting myself to. If someone approaches me with a script or a concept, and I think, yeah, that's great, that tells a story, and it'll, shift emotion and make people feel great at the end of it, I want to be part of it. Because I'm a creative, I just love to get involved with it. So I hope that kind of answers your question. I didn't go off on too much of a tangent. No,
it absolutely does. And I guess we'll wrap up now. And all that remains really for me to thank all of you so much for joining us, for giving us your time, and for being a part of the Fight Back Awards. We'll be back next year, hopefully in person in Ramsgate in the UK. And fingers crossed, we can keep helping veterans, and we can keep showcasing veteran-made films, because this is something that I know the festival director in particular feels very strongly about, and it's great to see all of you thriving and making these fantastic films. So thank you all very much, and hopefully best of luck to all of you, really.
So much, thank you. And one thing as well, I don't know if I can say this, but if there are any veterans out there that want to get involved with film, you know, my doors are open. I know obviously we're all in different parts of the world, but I'm open to not just veterans, anybody who wants to create film, right? Like helping people. So if there's some sort of Facebook group or organization or something that you guys do that connect people because they're a bit scared, you know, or who to approach or how to do it, my doors are open. And what you was explaining earlier, Andrew, you know, and Andy as well. I think Jessica and Kendall said it as well about getting on set and just learning and just getting involved. My sets are always open to anybody who wants to learn, anybody who wants to get involved. I'm there to teach. I'm there to help. I'm there to open. So if anybody wants that, you can find me, connect, and, you know, we can make it happen.
Brilliant. And there's no better way to end than that, I think. Absolutely. Yeah. This is going to be shared, and hopefully as many people see it as possible, and everyone's going to be knocking on your door now, Malcolm. So
there's 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. There's plenty of time. We can make it happen.